Hey guys, today we're going to be doing science from my office at home. So I'm at my desk and I have the materials I need. I have a piece of chalk, and you should have that from school, and it doesn't matter if it's just a small piece or if it's a broken piece. This is a broken piece of sidewalk chalk. You're also going to need a black crayon. And when we finish making our cloud drawing, you're going to need your glue stick, scissors, and the little strip of cloud names that I sent home with you, as well as your cloud chart. But for now, all you're going to need is your big 12 by 18 sheet of dark blue paper, your black crayon, and your sidewalk chalk. So we're going to think of our paper as being the atmosphere, it's the sky. So up here, they're going to be the highest clouds. Here, there'll be the clouds that are toward the middle. And here, they're going to be the low clouds. And we remember from class how to mark the middle of our paper without making a big ugly fold. And the way you do that is you fold the corner up and you just make that little pinch with your thumb, just like that. And I can do the same thing over here. I can fold and pinch with my thumb or finger, just like that. Now when I open it, I can see where the middle is because there's just a small indentation. So for these clouds that I'm going to do first, they're the very highest in the atmosphere. We want to stay above that middle section. So the first cloud we're going to do is called cirrostratus. Cirrus clouds are the ones that are in the highest in the atmosphere. So all these clouds that are going to be up here are going to start with the science word cirro. So cirrostratus is going to be cirro for very up high, and stratus for like a blanket across the sky. So I'm going to start with the sun, and I'm not going to draw little rays sticking out because this is a science drawing, and the sun does not have little spiky things sticking out of it when we look up at the sky. So there's the sun, and then there's going to be a blanket of clouds. So I'm just going to rub the side of my chalk very lightly. I'm making a blanket of clouds over the sun. But actually, when you see cirrostratus clouds, a lot of times when you look up, they're kind of see-through. But if it's a day with cirrostratus clouds, some days it will look like there's a little halo around the sun because you're actually seeing through the cirrostratus clouds. Okay, so notice I'm not pressing hard. Now I'm going to take my finger and I'm going to rub back and forth to give that blanket of clouds, and that's cirrostratus. You might see a halo around the sun if there are cirrostratus clouds. The next type of cloud we're going to do is just cirrus clouds, and they are the ones that are way up high. They're made of ice crystals, and they're very wispy. So when you see, when you see cirrostratus clouds, that means rain or snow might arrive within the next day. Now let's do cirrus clouds. These clouds predict a change in the weather. They're very wispy and they're made of ice crystals. So I'm just going to start by making this shape. It looks like kind of like a hook. I'm going to have all my little hooks going in the same direction. I'm not pressing very hard at all. These clouds are kind of wispy. And you can let some of them curve a little if you want. Now I'm going to take my finger and I'm going to rub and I'm going to put in a few more little streaks. I'm going to take my finger and I'm going to rub in the direction that they're going really, really hard. And look at that. You've seen those in the sky. Some people call those mare's tails. A mare is a female horse. It kind of looks like a little horse's tail in the sky. And when you see those icy clouds, that means a change in the weather is on the way. The next type of cloud we're going to do is called cirrocumulus. We know that cumulus clouds are those big, fat, puffy, white, low clouds that we like to look at and imagine we see shapes in. Well, these are like those, but they're up so high, and they're called cirrocumulus. And they kind of look like sheet-like clouds, like they're full of ripples or small grains. I think they look like fish scales. So I'm just going to make a series like rows of dots. And you notice I'm still way, way up high on the paper because these clouds are way, way up high. They're an upper part of the atmosphere. So just make your little, kind of little round puffs like that. They're kind of close together, and they look like they're in rows, like fish scales. There you go. And I'm trying to keep the different cloud types separated. So I'm going to take my finger again, and I think I'm going to do a few more down below. Maybe one up there. Okay. Now I'm going to take my finger and I'm going to rub back and forth, but not so hard this time. I want them to stay looking like little puffs. And when we see those clouds, it means it's usually going to be fair weather, sunny weather, but cold. Now, if you see these and you live in a tropical place, that could mean a hurricane's coming. But typically we see them in the winter. It's going to be sunny but cold. All right, now we're going to think about these mid-level clouds, the clouds that are in the middle of the sky. So the first one we're going to do is going to be alto stratus. Alto stratus. And that's going to be, a stratus always means a blanket. So there's a cirrostratus way up high. Alto stratus is just going to look like a gray blanket across the sky. That's alto stratus. Now that is easy to make because it's just a gray blanket that we would see. You might see it in sort of layers. I'll put one more layer there. Alto stratus clouds are gray or sometimes blue-gray mid-level clouds, and they are composed of ice crystals and water droplets. If you see these covering the whole sky, you should be prepared for snow or rain, like all day snow or rain. And of course, we would be prepared for rain since we very seldom get snow. All right, the next kind of cloud we're going to do is altocumulus. Altocumulus clouds are like cirrocumulus clouds, except they're down lower. And since they're down lower, when we see altocumulus clouds, we'll put them over here. They look like bigger puffs. Sometimes they look like a flock of sheep. So I'm going to do bigger puffs, like a flock of sheep. But they're also, you'll see them, they look like they're like very organized, like they're arranged in rows. So I'm making my flock of sheep here. And I'm going to let it be I'm going to let it come out a little further on the end. There's my row of sheep. And when I use my finger this time, I'm going to make them, I'm not going to rub so hard. Because when you see these clouds, they're made of water droplets. Clouds made of water droplets have what look like really firm edges, like a cotton ball almost. If a cloud is made of ice, the edges are very wispy and like unclear. They just kind of fade out. But if it's made of water droplets, it's going to look like it has a distinct shape. So there's my altocumulus clouds, and those come in fair weather. So you would not go get your umbrella if you saw these. They come in fair weather. So you're just lightly using your finger, barely using your finger, because you want it to keep its distinct shape, because it's made of water droplets. All right, the next cloud we're going to make is the one we always think of when we think of clouds. We think of those puffy clouds in the sky, and those are called cumulus clouds. They look like fluffy white cotton balls in the sky. They're very beautiful in sunsets, and their sizes and shape make them fun to look at. It's like in the video when the children were imagining they were seeing all these different animals in the sky. And when you have these kind of clouds, it's going to be fair weather. So these clouds are getting down, they're somewhat low. So now we're down in this bottom half of our page. These clouds are flat on the bottom. So I'm going to draw a flat bottom. Sorry about that. And they're fluffy on the top. So I'm going to draw it fluffy on the top. And I'm going to make another one behind it. If I want something to look like it's behind it, it'll be partly covered. And this cloud's going to be a little higher than the first, so I'll put the bottom of it above the bottom of the first one. When you want things to look like they're further away, remember you always make them smaller and higher on the page. And also if you hide part of it, it shows that it's further back. Last but not least, let's put one way back here as well. So I'm going to come out with my flat bottom. I'm going to let this one come out a little further. And I'm going to let it have a nice big round puffy shape. Alright, so there are my cumulus clouds. Now, the top of a cumulus cloud is white, 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 white. And just like we left these ones very white because they're made of water droplets, these, when the sun shines on them, look super white. So I'm going to make the tops of them where the sun's going to shine on them super duper duper white. Super duper white. And I'm going to make the top of this cloud super duper white. And you can pause whenever you need to. And I'm going to make the top of this cloud super duper white. And then for the rest of my cloud, I'm just going to color very lightly. But I am coloring in. I'm just coloring in. And I'm coloring so lightly, I'm not pressing my chalk. Then I'm going to take my finger and I'm going to gently, inside of my cumulus cloud, I'm going to move my finger in a circular motion, but that part that I made super duper white, I'm going to leave it alone. I'm going to let it stay super duper white. Now my clouds don't look like individual clouds with sharp edges. So I'm going to take, the last thing I'm going to do to these clouds is, the next to the last thing, sorry, is I'm going to go back over that top edge and just get it so white. Going really hard. Putting down a lot of chalk. There we go. Those are my cumulus clouds. They mean fair weather. Now, cumulus clouds mean fair weather, but we've discussed this before. We've discussed a day at the beach. A day at the beach when you're swimming and you're having your picnic on the sand and everything is beautiful. And you see in the sky cumulus clouds for fair weather. But throughout the day on that hot, hot beach, more and more hot air is rising and more water vapor is rising with it. So let's make a cumulus cloud, but then let's watch what happens to it throughout the day at the beach. So here's the flat bottom of our cumulus cloud. I'm going to put that in the middle. And the cloud starts just like any old cumulus cloud. Just like that. I'm going to make it white on the top. But as the day goes on, more and more hot air is rising, more and more water vapor is rising with it. So the clouds start to get pushed higher and higher into the atmosphere. They get really tall. So see, you were swimming and you looked up and it was a cumulus cloud. Now you look up and the clouds might be taller in the sky. And then you stop swimming and you build a sandcastle, and when you look up again, It might be really tall into the sky. I'm going to make the top of that white. Now I'm going to take my finger and I'm just going to smear within the cloud. Don't smear your white, just smear the edges of your white. See how I still have some blue in there? That makes it look three-dimensional. It makes it look like it takes up space. These clouds have very distinct edges. They're not wispy because they are full of water vapor. They can tower super high in the sky. We can make it go even higher. These clouds are the ones they showed you on the NOAA weather video. The ones that go so high in the atmosphere that satellites can tell they're there because they're reaching so high, and the tops are so cold because they're way up high in the atmosphere. The higher you go in the atmosphere, the colder it is, the further you are from the heat of the sun that's been trapped by the earth. So I'm going to spread that. Now when you see this, that's when your parent says, hurry, pack up. Because we're going to do something called cross-hatching. It's just a series of diagonal lines. It's a drawing technique. So watch what I do. I'm just going to take my black crayon and I'm making, I don't know if you can see that very well. See my diagonal lines? I'm going to do that again and show you again. So don't start doing this yet. They need to all go the same way. This is called cross-hatching. So let's do that with our black crayon across the bottom of this. Formerly cumulus cloud, now it's cumulonimbus. And when you hear nimbus in the name of a cloud, it means rain. So the cloud just will start looking towering. I'm cross-hatching on the bottom of my second cloud. Now I'm going to show you why it's called cross-hatching. Put your crayon down for a moment. Cross-hatching is when you actually crisscross the lines that you made. If I want this cloud to be darker on the very bottom, I'll show you what I'll do. I'm going to go in the opposite direction, but I'm only going to I'm making these lines shorter than their first ones, and that'll turn the bottom of my cloud really dark. I'm going to show you. Let me just finish doing this. See how my crayon's going in the opposite direction? Now look. See how it's much darker now at the bottom? And I'm going to do that up here too. So you can go ahead and start cross-hatching. These lines are going to be diagonal but going in the other direction, and they're going to be shorter. So that, when you see this cloud, that's when you all grab your stuff and run for the car. Because this is going to bring a thunderstorm. Say cumulonimbus. That's cumulus, that's cumulonimbus. Whenever it has nimbus in the name, it means rain. I might even let my cloud get dark up here a little. The base of that cloud. Maybe a little here, the base of this cloud. Cumulus, cumulonimbus. So what do we have here? We have cirrostratus making the halo around the sun. We have cirrus, which is the mare's tails. They're made of ice crystals. We have cirrocumulus. Then we have cirrostratus was up there. Then we have altostratus. And we have altocumulus. Alto means in the middle of the sky. Cumulus means the puffy ones. These puffy guys are all related. Even these guys. All these puffy ones have cirro in their name. And now we're going to talk about low clouds. But before we talk about low clouds, we need to think about why do we have to run off the beach when when these clouds are towering and getting higher and higher? Because that's the kind of storm that brings lightning. Now I know a lot of times you see cartoon lightning. People draw lightning like this. That is the cartoon symbol for lightning. We know that's not what lightning actually looks like in the sky. Lightning is when there's so much electricity that's been generated in that cloud from all those raindrops bumping against each other. that the energy is released from the cloud, and it can look like jagged streaks. It doesn't really look like a perfect zigzag. So I'm going to make some jagged streaks of lightning coming down from my cloud. That's why you have to get to safety. Definitely do not want to be in the water or at the beach during a thunderstorm. You don't want to be the tallest thing. And whenever you hear thunder start to rumble, you need to get inside your car or your home or a building somewhere. All right, so there we have our cloud. And in the end, if you want, you could add some rain coming from that with a blue crayon if you would like. I would just do the streaks coming down like that. All right, we are almost finished. Now we're going to get our alto cumulus clouds. They're going to be down here. No, I'm sorry. We're going to get our nimbostratus. Okay, so we're going to have our stratus clouds we've already got right down here. These are low. They're a thick blanket. Make that. That's stratus. Very low, thick blanket. And sometimes those low clouds can also bring rain. So sometimes you look out and it looks like there's a white blanket across the sky. That's when you're seeing those stratus clouds. But sometimes the white blanket turns to gray. And then you're seeing, and then we'll make the top of this a little irregular. Guess I could do the same thing over here. These clouds can bring rain. So I'm going to smear it to make it into a blanket. It's not white. I'm leaving some blue there because I want it to look like it's getting darker and grayer. And then I'm going to cross hatch on that as well. This is nimbostratus, dark gray clouds they're often so thick they block out the sun. And it usually means gloomy weather. I'm cross hatching again with continuous rain. Or snow if you live where it's cold. I'm not pressing quite so hard as I did on my cumulonimbus cloud because they are really black. We've seen those big black clouds. These can bring rain as well. So if you would like to, after the video, you could put some blue rain coming down from this cloud and this cloud. This is cumulonimbus. This is nimbostratus. And the nimbo part means rain. All right. And sometimes we're going to see stratocumulus clouds. Stratocumulus clouds, they are low. They look like cumulus, but they're not as thick and puffy. They're sort of like stretched out. Stratocumulus clouds look sort of like altocumulus, but even bigger and fatter. So these are the last ones we're going to make. I'm going to put them right here. They're flat on the bottom. I'm going to put a few different levels. Like that. I'm not pressing hard. These are not so white. I'm just drawing the shapes of these clouds. I'm going to try to make them different from one another. I think this one's going to be a bumpy cloud. I'm going to make the tops of them a little wider than the rest. Just the tops. I'm pressing hard on just the tops. And now I'm going to take my finger. I do not want to mess up their distinct edges because they are made of water drops, but I want them to look a little more cloud-like. And I think the bottom, if it's too much of a straight line, we'll color in a little bit around the bottom and then rub that in. And now you've created all those clouds in the different layers of the atmosphere. And we've learned that these clouds can help us predict the weather. So in the coming week, next week, we're going to be doing our daily weather observations, and you'll be able to identify the clouds and you'll be able to help predict the weather. Your family will be so impressed when you look out the window of the car and say, wow, look at those cumulus clouds. So the last thing you need to do is take the strip of cloud names, the blue strip of cloud names, carefully in one place, cut them apart, and glue them on this cloud chart that you've created using the cloud chart that I sent home with you. And if you want to learn more about the different types of clouds, on the reverse of the picture on the cloud chart, there's a section that describes each type of cloud, what it's made of, how high it is in the atmosphere, and what type of weather it indicates. So be prepared on Monday to share your cloud drawing, your labeled cloud drawing, with your small presentation group. And you guys are going to discuss the clouds. All right, I'm looking forward to seeing you on Monday. Alright guys, I found my blue crayon, so I'm going to use my blue crayon to make some diagonal lines, sort of like when I was cross-hatching, coming out of this cumulonimbus cloud. And these blue lines are going to indicate rain, but I'm not drawing big navy blue lines, because when it's raining, you don't look out the window and see stripes coming out of the sky. So can you see how I did that crayon, the cross-hatching for the rain? It's barely even visible, but it's there to remind me, and I'm going to do it for Nimbostratus as well. It's just for me, as the user of this cloud chart that I'm going to hang in my room, to remind me that cumulonimbus and Nimbostratus have Nimbo in their name, and they will bring rain. All right, guys, see you on Monday.